My husband has been carrying on an affair with his stepsister, and their relatives have known the whole time to expose the family that protected their secret. Can you even imagine finding out your husband isn't just having an affair, but that his entire family, the people who hug you at holidays, who smile at you over dinner, have known about it for years and kept it from you? What would you do? Because when I found out, I knew a simple confrontation wasn't going to cut it. Not for me. My name is Rebecca, and 3 months ago, my world shattered. I was sitting in my kitchen, a coffee mug long gone cold, my hand shaking so hard I could barely hold it. In that moment, the truth slammed into me, and a terrifying realization followed. If his whole family knew, if they had protected this disgusting secret, smiling in my face at every Sunday dinner, every birthday party, then they deserved more than just a quiet confrontation. They deserved to watch their perfect little world explode. Publicly, violently. So I started planning. The woman, or rather the girl, was Melissa, his stepsister. They'd practically been glued at the hip since they were 12 and 14. And I know what some of you might be thinking. Oh, stepsister, not blood-related. Maybe it's not so bad. Wrong. So incredibly wrong. It was worse. They were raised as siblings. They shared a home, squabbled over the TV remote, called the same people Mom and Dad. They went on family vacations, opened gifts on Christmas morning together, and somewhere in all that shared history, something deeply twisted had happened between them. Like most horrifying discoveries, this one happened by accident. I was rummaging through Marcus's car, looking for a charging cable, when my fingers brushed against a crumpled receipt. The Riverside Inn, about 30 miles outside of town. A Thursday, 2 weeks prior. My heart seized. I remembered that Thursday perfectly. Marcus had told me he was at a work conference home late. I almost brushed it off, but something felt wrong. Why that hotel? If it was a conference, why so far out of the city? Why not stay in the city? That night, after he'd fallen asleep, I crept out of bed and checked our credit card statements. There it was, the Riverside Inn. 6 times in the last 4 months. Always a Thursday. Always the same room charge. Around $150. My stomach plummeted to my feet. But I didn't wake him. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just lay there in the dark, listening to his steady breathing, and felt something inside me go incredibly, chillingly quiet. The next Thursday, I called in sick to work. I never did that. I teach 3rd grade. I love my job. But that day, all I could think about was the cold knot of dread in my gut and the way Marcus had kissed my forehead that morning. "Love you, Becca," he'd said like he always did, like it meant something. 20 minutes after he left, I got in my car. I knew he usually stopped at the office first, so I drove there, parking discreetly across the street. His car was in the lot, just as I expected. I waited, checking my phone again and again. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. 45 agonizing minutes later, he emerged. And he wasn't alone. Melissa was right there beside him. They weren't touching, not explicitly, but there was a sickening familiarity in their closeness, the way they moved together. She laughed at something he said, and he smiled down at her, a gentle, intimate smile. And for a second, my vision actually blurred. I followed them, kept 3 cars back, just like in the movies. I felt ridiculous, heartbroken, and absolutely incandescent with fury, all at once. They drove straight to the Riverside Inn, parking side by side. This time, as they walked toward the entrance, he placed his hand on the small of her back. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just staring at that awful red brick building, with its white shutters and that taunting sign. Clean rooms, fair prices. How romantic, I thought, my throat raw. Then I drove home and spent the next 10 minutes throwing up in the bathroom. But here's the crucial part. I didn't confront them. Not yet, because I needed more. I needed to know if this was a recent betrayal, or if I'd been the fool for years. More importantly, I needed to know who else knew. So I started digging. When Marcus was in the shower, I checked his phone. I know, invasion of privacy, right? But frankly, when your husband is sleeping with his stepsister, I think, invasion of privacy goes out the window. His messages with Melissa were careful, coded. See you Thursday. Can't wait. Miss you already. Nothing explicitly sexual, but the intimacy, the familiarity, it oozed from every line. These were not messages between siblings. I scrolled back, months, then years. And that's when I found it. A message from 3 years ago. I know we said we'd stop, but I can't get you out of my head. 3 years. We'd been married for 5. I actually laughed when I read that. A horrible, hollow sound that didn't even register as my own. I was sitting on the bathroom floor, his phone still clutched in my hand, and I just laughed until the tears started streaming down my face. The very next Sunday, we went to his parents' house for dinner, like we always did every other week. Marcus's mom, Patricia, always made her pot roast. His stepdad, George, always wanted to talk about football. And Melissa was usually there with her boyfriend, Dylan. That night, I saw them all through a brand new, horrifying lens. Patricia hugged me when we arrived. Rebecca, sweetie, you look tired. Are you feeling okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine, just busy with work. The lie came so easily. Melissa was in the kitchen, tossing salad. She looked up, bright-eyed. Hey, Becca, can you grab the dressing from the fridge? I did, handed it to her. Watched her thank me with that easy, innocent smile. This woman, who was sleeping with my husband, who grew up calling his father Dad, who sat across from me at Thanksgiving asking me to pass the stuffing. Dylan, Melissa's boyfriend, was nice. A little boring, talked a lot about his insurance job, but he clearly adored her, constantly touching her arm, bringing her drinks. I wondered if he knew, if he suspected, or if he was just as clueless as I had been 6 weeks ago. During dinner, I watched Marcus and Melissa like a hawk. They were careful. No lingering looks, no overt secret smiles. But twice I saw it. Tiny, fleeting moments. She passed him the breadbasket, and their fingers touched for a second too long. He laughed at something she said, and that laugh, it was different. Softer. More real than the one he used with anyone else. Patricia, his mom, noticed me watching. Rebecca, do you want more pot roast? I blinked, forced another smile. No, thank you. It's delicious, though. George launched into a story about his golf game. Marcus leaned back, relaxed, one arm draped casually over the back of my chair, playing the part of the perfect husband. I felt physically sick. After dinner, I helped Patricia with the dishes. Just the two of us in the kitchen. Warm water running. The distant murmur of laughter from the living room. You and Marcus seem happy, Patricia said, scrubbing a plate. I almost dropped the dish I was drying. We are. I managed the word tasting like ash. Good, she said. I worry about you too sometimes. Marriage is hard work. She rinsed the plate, handed it to me. But you're good for him. You keep him grounded. I wanted to scream, wanted to tell her everything right then and there, but I didn't. I just smiled, nodded, dried the dishes, and in that moment, I hated every single person in that house. That night, a cold, hard decision solidified in my mind. I was going to find out just how deep this conspiracy went, how many people had known, how long they'd protected this monstrous secret, and then I was going to burn it all to the ground. I started with Marcus's younger brother, Kyle. He was a couple of years younger, lived across town, worked as a mechanic. We'd always gotten along well enough, but we weren't exactly close. I invited him to lunch, pretending I needed advice for a surprise birthday party for Marcus. Kyle seemed confused. Marcus's birthday wasn't for another 4 months, but he agreed. We met at a downtown diner. I ordered coffee, though I didn't drink it. I just watched Kyle devour his burger, trying to figure out how to ask the impossible question. Finally, I just stirred my cold coffee and said, "How long have you known?" Kyle looked up, confused. Known what? About Marcus and Melissa. The change in his face was immediate. He went ghost white, dropped his burger onto his plate, and looked around wildly, as if someone might be listening. Becca, just tell me. Please. I already know, I said, my voice flat. I just need to know who else knows. He was quiet for a long, heavy moment, then very quietly since high school. My head swam. What? They started whatever this is when they were like 16 and 18. It was weird then, and it's weird now, but he rubbed his face. Look, I thought it ended when Marcus met you. I really did. He swore it was done. Who else knows, Kyle? I pressed, my voice barely a whisper. Who else knows? He sighed, a defeated sound. Mom and George know. They caught them once, years ago. There was this huge fight. They made them promise to stop. And when Marcus started dating you, everyone thought it was finally over. But it wasn't. I didn't even know they'd started up again, I swear. Not until about 6 months ago. I saw them at a restaurant. It was supposed to be a work thing for Marcus, but Melissa was there and they were... He trailed off, shaking his head. I confronted Marcus. He admitted it, begged me not to tell you, and I didn't. I told him he was being an idiot, that he needed to end it or tell you or both. Kyle looked at me, genuine pain in his eyes. You're my sister-in-law. I should have told you. I'm so sorry. I felt strangely, unnervingly calm. Who else? I don't know. Maybe Dad. Probably not Melissa's boyfriend. That guy is clueless. Some of their friends might suspect, but I don't think they know for sure. I nodded, took a sip of my now ice-cold coffee. Okay. What are you going to do? He asked. I smiled at him. It felt like a mask on my face. I haven't decided yet. That was a lie. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Marcus's parents were celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary in 3 months. A huge party. They'd rented out a country club, invited everyone they knew, hired a caterer and a band. Patricia had been planning it for a year. It was going to be their social event of the season. Perfect. I went home and started my own planning. I opened a separate bank account, slowly transferring money, just enough so Marcus wouldn't notice. I consulted a divorce attorney, got all my ducks in a row. I became a human detective. Screenshots of every message, printed credit card statements, even a covert trip back to the Riverside Inn to photograph both their cars in the parking lot, time-stamped. And then I waited. I played the perfect wife, smiled at Sunday dinners, laughed at George's terrible jokes. I even helped Patricia plan her anniversary party, feigning enthusiasm for every detail. She even asked me to give a speech about family, love, and commitment. I told her I'd be honored. Marcus didn't suspect a thing. Why would he? I was a master at pretending now. I'd been doing it for months. The only truly hard part was sleeping next to him, letting him touch me. He initiated sex twice in those 3 months. I went through the motions, numb, staring at the ceiling afterward, feeling utterly hollow, simmering with anger and just so tired. Melissa was even harder to be around. She was so sickeningly comfortable with a lie. At family dinners, she'd ask about my students, my parents, my life, as if she actually cared, as if she wasn't actively, deliberately destroying my marriage. I started to hate her more than Marcus. At least he sometimes had the decency to look guilty. Then, 2 weeks before the anniversary party, everything changed. Dylan proposed to Melissa, right there at Sunday dinner. He got down on one knee in Patricia's dining room, pulled out a ring, and asked her to marry him. Everyone cried. Patricia was absolutely thrilled. George enthusiastically shook Dylan's hand. Marcus hugged his stepsister. A hug that lasted just a little too long, I noticed, and congratulated them both. I watched Melissa's face when she said yes. She looked happy, yes. But then she glanced at Marcus over Dylan's shoulder, and I saw something else flicker in her eyes. Panic, maybe? Regret? That night, Marcus was unusually quiet on the drive home. You okay? I asked, feigning concern. Yeah, just surprised. Didn't think Dylan would propose so soon. They've been together 2 years, you know. I know, I said. Just surprised. I looked at him in the darkness of the car. Does it bother you? What? No. Why would it? I shrugged. She's your sister. Big change. He relaxed, thinking I was just being a caring wife. Yeah, I guess. But I'm happy for her. Liar, I thought. I had all the proof I needed now. The next Thursday, I followed them again. To that hotel. This time, I watched them arrive separately. I walked straight to the desk clerk, slipped him $50, and asked what name the room was under. Marcus had used his real name, the absolute idiot. I paid the clerk another $100 to let me know when they left. I waited in my car. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed. I drove back, parked, and walked directly to their door. Before they could even get back to their cars, I knocked. Marcus answered, shirtless, his face drained of all color when he saw me. Becca. I looked past him. Melissa was sitting on the bed, wrapped in a sheet, looking absolutely terrified. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just looked at both of them. The anniversary party is in 12 days, I said, my voice dead calm. I expect you both to be there. Then I turned and walked away. I heard Marcus calling my name behind me, pleading, but I didn't stop. I got in my car, drove home, and felt lighter than I had in months. He came home 2 hours later. I was sitting at the kitchen table waiting. Becca, please let me explain. No, it's not what you... Marcus. I cut him off, my voice chillingly firm. Stop talking. He stopped. I looked at him. This man I had loved, married, built a life with. You have 2 options, I said. 1, you show up at your parents' anniversary party, and you act normal. You don't tell anyone I know. You don't warn Melissa or your family. You do exactly what I say. My voice was a low growl. Option 2, I send every single piece of evidence I have to everyone right now. Your parents, your friends, your job, Melissa's job, Dylan, everyone. I paused. Which do you choose, Marcus? He stared at me, his face a mask of terror. What are you going to do at the party? You'll find out, I said, my voice ice cold. What's your choice? He looked utterly broken, small. I'll do what I want. Good. Sleep in the guest room. He did. The next 12 days were surreal. We barely spoke. He went to work, came home, stayed completely out of my way. I, meanwhile, continued planning my speech for the party. Patricia called me 3 times to go over details. Each time, I was sweet, helpful, enthusiastic. Melissa called once. Rebecca, we need to talk, she pleaded. No, we don't, I stated. Please, I can explain. If you're not at the party, I warned, I send everything to Dylan right now. Clear. She was sobbing. Okay. I hung up. Kyle called too. Marcus told me what happened, he said, sounding distraught. Becca, I'm so sorry. Did he tell you what I'm planning? I asked. No. What are you planning? You'll see, I said. Just be at the party. The night before the anniversary party, I couldn't sleep a wink. I went over every detail in my head. The speech I'd written, the slideshow I'd meticulously crafted, the thick stack of printed packets I'd prepared. Everything was ready. Marcus was in the guest room. I thought about our wedding day, how genuinely happy I'd been, how I'd envisioned us growing old, having kids, building a life. I cried for the first time in months. Not for him. For me. For the future that had been stolen. The anniversary party was picture perfect. The country club was draped in white flowers and twinkling lights. 100 guests mingled, sipping champagne, laughing. Patricia beaming in a stunning blue dress, and George looking proud in his suit. Marcus arrived with me. We'd agreed to drive together to keep up appearances. He looked sick. I, on the other hand, wore a striking red dress I'd bought specifically for this. I wanted to look good for the end. Melissa arrived with Dylan, who was practically radiating happiness, showing everyone her engagement ring. Melissa looked like she might throw up. Good. Patricia hugged me. Oh, Rebecca, you look gorgeous. Thank you so much for coming early to help set up. I had helped. Arranged chairs, set out programs, even tested the microphone. Anything for you, I said, my smile unwavering. The party continued. Dinner was served. Then the speeches began. Friends and family shared heartwarming stories about Patricia and George, their love, their family, their life together. Everyone laughed and clapped. Then Patricia called me up. And now our wonderful daughter-in-law, Rebecca, has prepared something special. I walked to the front, took the microphone, and looked out at all those faces. Family, friends, people who had smiled at me for years, all while knowing the truth. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began, my voice steady, remarkably calm. Patricia and George, congratulations on 20 years. That's quite an achievement. People smiled. Patricia looked delighted. Marriage, I continued, is built on trust, on honesty, on the belief that your partner, your family, has your back, that they won't betray you. Marcus had gone utterly pale. Cal was staring at me, eyes wide. Melissa looked like she was about to faint. So, I said, my voice gaining strength, I thought tonight at this celebration of love and commitment we should be honest, completely honest, about what family really means. I nodded to the AV guy I'd paid. The screens behind me flickered to life. The first image, a credit card statement. Hotel charges highlighted in bright yellow. For the past year, I announced, my voice cutting through the sudden silence, my husband, Marcus, has been having an affair. Gasps erupted. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. George shot to his feet. Marcus started to rise too, but Kyle, bless him, grabbed his arm. Next slide. Text messages between Marcus and Melissa. The affair, I stated, is with his stepsister Melissa. Melissa let out a small, wounded animal sound. Dylan's face, in seconds, went from confused to utterly horrified. Next slide. Photos of their cars at the hotel. Dated. Time-stamped. But here's the interesting part, I continued, my voice still unwavering. This isn't new. According to multiple sources, including Marcus's own brother, this has been going on since they were teenagers. And their parents, Patricia and George, have known for years. Patricia was openly sobbing now. George was frozen, a statue of shock. The room had fallen, completely silent, save for my voice. They were caught. They were told to stop. They promised they would. But they didn't. And when Marcus married me, his family welcomed me with open arms. Let me call them family. Let me believe I was part of something real. All while knowing my husband was sleeping with his stepsister behind my back. I clicked to the next slide, a photo from our wedding. Marcus and I smiling, surrounded by his entire family. I've spent 3 months investigating, gathering evidence, trying to understand how an entire family could look me in the eye, week after week, and say nothing. How they could let me help plan this party, give this speech, be part of their lives, all while protecting this heinous secret. I looked directly at Patricia, who was a mess of tears. You told me marriage was hard work, that I was good for Marcus, that I kept him grounded. Did you ever think about telling me the truth? Or was I just convenient? The naive wife who kept things normal, who gave you all cover. George looked like he'd aged 10 years. I turned my gaze to Melissa. And you? You were going to marry Dylan. Were you going to stop then? Or just keep lying to both of us? Dylan had now stood up, staring at Melissa with a look of utter, shattered disbelief. Finally, I looked at Marcus. You told me you loved me every day, every morning. Love you, Becca. Like it meant something. Like we meant something. He was crying. I did love you. I do. Don't. I cut him off sharply. Just don't. I put down the microphone. Then I picked up the stack of printed packets I'd prepared, walked through the stunned crowd, and started handing them out. These, I announced, my voice carrying over the silence, contain all the evidence, every message, every receipt, every photo. I've also included contact information for my attorney. Marcus, you'll be hearing from them Monday. I walked past Patricia and George. Patricia reached for me, her face streaked with tears. "Rebecca, please." I stopped, looked at her. 20 years of marriage, Patricia," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Congratulations. I hope it was worth it." Then I walked out. Behind me, the party exploded. Shouting, crying, chaos. I heard Dylan's voice, angry and broken, demanding answers. Heard Marcus calling my name, Patricia still sobbing. I got in my car and drove away. I drove straight to my friend Jennifer's house. She was one of the only people I'd confided in. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and just pulled me into a fierce hug. "It's done," I whispered. "Good," she said, squeezing me tight. "Wine or ice cream?" "Both." We sat on her couch, and I recounted everything. The faces, the gasps, the sheer, glorious chaos. She listened, nodded, and never once judged me. "Do you think it was too much?" I asked her, my voice raw. "No," she said, her tone firm. "They protected him for years. They all lied to you, Rebecca. They deserved it." My phone was blowing up. Marcus, Patricia, Kyle, even some of the party guests. I just turned it off. I stayed at Jennifer's for 3 days. On Monday, my attorney called. Marcus wanted to talk about the divorce. I told her to handle it. I never wanted to see him again. Kyle came by on Tuesday. Jennifer let him in, but she stayed in the room, a silent, protective presence. "I'm not here to defend him," Kyle said immediately, hands raised. What he did was unforgivable. What they all did was unforgivable. "I just wanted to check if you were okay." "I'm fine," I told him. "Mom's a wreck. Dad's not speaking to Marcus or Melissa. Dylan broke up with Melissa. It's all falling apart." "Good," said. Kyle nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you did it. They needed to face consequences." "I know. I knew for years." "I know," I said. "And I was a coward. I'm sorry." I looked at him. "Okay, Kyle. You apologized. I accept it. But I don't want to see you or any of them again." He nodded quietly and left. The divorce took 4 months. Marcus didn't fight it. He gave me everything I asked for. Our house, half his retirement, a settlement that would keep me comfortable while I figured out my next steps. I heard through mutual friends that he and Melissa had eventually stopped seeing each other. Too much damage. Too much public exposure. Melissa moved to another state. Dylan started dating someone new. Patricia and George, I heard, went to marriage counseling trying to deal with the fallout of enabling their children's affair for years. I sold the house, got a new teaching job in a different district, and started over. About a year after the party, I received a letter from Patricia. It was long, handwritten, brimming with apologies and regrets. She said she understood if I never forgave her, that she'd made terrible choices trying to protect her children, and that she thought about me every single day. I never wrote back. 2 years later, I met someone new. His name was Daniel. He was a teacher, too, kind, funny, and most importantly, honest. On our 3rd date, I told him everything. The whole messy story. I needed to know if it would scare him off. He listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he simply said, "That took courage, Rebecca. What you did at that party, standing up for yourself like that. Some people might call it cruel. But some people enable affairs and lie to family members for years. I think you did what you had to do." We got married a year later. A small ceremony, just close friends. No big family drama. No secrets. Sometimes I still think about that night at the country club. The look on their faces when the truth came out. The absolute, unadulterated chaos I left behind. And you know what? I don't feel guilty. Maybe I should, but I truly don't. They made their choices. I made mine. And honestly, I sleep better now than I did in the last 2 years of my marriage. A few months ago, I ran into Kyle at the grocery store. It was awkward. He asked how I was doing. I told him I was married, happy, teaching at a new school. "Good," he said genuinely. "You deserve that." "How's Marcus?" I asked, though I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. He's okay, I guess. Still single, still dealing with everything. Mom and Dad barely talk to him anymore. I nodded. And Melissa, he continued. I don't know. We don't really keep in touch. The whole family kind of fractured after everything. That's what happens, I said, my voice quiet, when you build a family on lies. Kyle looked uncomfortable. Yeah, listen, I know this doesn't mean much coming from me, but I really am sorry. For not telling you. For being part of it. I know, I said. And I forgive you, Kyle. I did a long time ago. You were in an impossible situation. His eyes got watery. Thank you, he mumbled. We said goodbye. I watched him walk away and felt a little bit lighter. Just last week, Jennifer sent me a screenshot. Someone had apparently posted about my story on social media, one of the party guests, and it had gone viral. People were debating whether I'd been justified or cruel or both. I didn't read the comments. I didn't engage. That part of my life was over. But it did make me think about all the people out there who might be in a similar situation, who suspect something but don't know for sure, who are being lied to by the very people who claim to love them. And I hope my story tells them one thing. You don't have to stay quiet. You don't have to protect people who won't protect you. You don't owe loyalty to people who betrayed yours. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is tell the truth. Even if it's messy. Even if it destroys things. Even if people call you cruel. Because the alternative is living a lie. And I did that for long enough. These days I'm happy. Truly, deeply happy. I teach kids who make me laugh every single day. I'm married to a man who respects me, who cherishes honesty. I have friends who support me unconditionally. I have a life I built from the ground up after everything crumbled. And somewhere out there, Marcus and Melissa are living with their choices. Patricia and George are living with theirs. They all lost things because of what they did, because of what they protected. I lost things too, but what I gained back, that was worth so much more. I gained my self-respect, my peace, my ability to trust again. And honestly, that's worth more than any family who lied to my face for years. So yeah, I exposed them at their anniversary party. I burned it all down in the most public way possible. And you know what? I'd do it again. Because some secrets deserve to be exposed. And some families, well, some families deserve to fall apart. Have you ever had to choose between protecting a lie and standing up for yourself, no matter the cost? What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments below.